Cost in project management is the same as cost in everyday life. It's just the amount of money associated with something, no matter if it is an hour of time, a pencil, a piece of wood, or a widget. Everything has a monetary value associated with it. When working on a project, cost is important to the project manager because as the project evolves, resources are needed, and, you guessed it, there are costs associated with those resources. The resources will reduce the project's budget, and when the budget is reduced to zero, there's an issue. In project management, there are 4 types of cost that can be classified into 2 categories. Fixed costs are costs that always stay the same. In other words, they're fixed during the project. A good example of this would be the cost of nails used to build a house. The market for nails is fairly constant and isn't likely to change over the life cycle of the project. Variable costs are costs that change depending on the amount of work. In the house building example, this could be the costs associated with hourly labor for the house build. Direct costs are any type of expenses that will be directly billed to the project, such as travel expenses for the project team members. Sunk costs are costs that are or have been incurred but did not contribute value to objectives associated with the project. These are costs that cannot be recovered. For example, say you hired an electrician to wire the house, but about 2 weeks in, he got hit by a car and couldn't continue. You, the project manager, scramble to hire another electrician. After 2 days on the job, the new one convinces you that the first electrician was not installing to code and all the wiring has to be reworked. The costs for the first electrician are sunk. The first category of cost is actual cost, which is the actual amount paid or incurred. This is different than estimated or standard costs. Costs that would fall into this category include direct costs like labor and materials. The second category of cost is standard cost, which is the estimated cost of executing an activity under standard or normal conditions. These are generated from historical data and used for estimating costs and determining budgets. Now, total cost is the total of all the actual project costs. When the project manager is trying to determine total cost of the project, he or she will sum all of the actual amounts of fixed costs, variable costs, direct costs, and sunk costs. This summation is the total cost of the project. Cost variance is the difference between total cost and estimated standard cost. This is also known as actual costs, or AC versus estimate at the completion, or EAC. If total cost is less than standard, which is usually the amount budgeted, then that means the project is under budget and the project manager did well. If total cost is greater than standard, then the project is over budget. Not so good for the project manager. It's a good idea to perform cost variance analysis on a monthly basis. Many organizations do not update their enterprise resource planning software more frequently than monthly anyway, and doing it on that schedule allows project managers to prepare for their project reviews. At this point, you can either expect to have to explain deficiencies with corrective actions, or receive a pat on the back for being under budget. One extremely good tool to perform cost variance is the earned value method. With regard to project management and all things, cost is the amount of money related to something. There are 4 types of costs associated with a project: fixed costs, sunk costs, direct costs, and variable costs. Each will be a direct charge to the project and factor into total costs. There are 2 categories of cost: standard and actual cost. Actual costs are the cost of a good or service or resource, while standard costs are estimates based on historical figures. Total cost of the project is the sum of all actual costs that the project incurred. The total cost is compared to standard cost to determine cost variance. The project manager should perform cost variance analysis at least once a month. The project manager is responsible to determine if the project is over, on, or under budget.